They called him the Laughing Man, but no one ever heard him laugh. Not really. The sound they remembered was something else entirely. A wet, broken wheeze caught between breath and madness. The kind of sound you don't forget, even when you try. Even when you drink until your memories go black. Even when you pray until your knees bleed in the chapel. He was not just a killer. He was something older than murder. A ritual written into the bones of the city long before anyone noticed blood on cobblestone. The year was 1887, and London was rotting from the inside out, a cathedral of fog and smoke and unmarked graves. This was no ordinary killer stalking prostitutes in Whitechapel. This was something colder, sharper. The first body was found beneath the Blackfriars Bridge. No name, no face, no fingers. Just a grin carved from jaw to ear. Not a smile, a warning. One that the city ignored like it always does when the poor start disappearing. The second body came 3 nights later. Southwark, same grin, same silence. The press called it hysteria. The police called it coincidence. But those working the graveyard shifts in the city's underbelly, they knew something had returned, something ancient, something that wears a man's skin but speaks in hunger. They say he walked with no shadow, that animals would not come near him, that every pub he entered fell into a hush, as if the walls themselves feared to echo his presence. He was never seen more than once in the same place. He left no prints, no clues, only laughter that stayed in your lungs like smoke. And still, no sketches, no name, only rumors and fear. The archives will tell you this case was overshadowed by another killer that same year. But that was a distraction, a perfectly timed distraction, because someone wanted the Laughing Man buried in silence. This was not a man who killed for pleasure. This was someone enacting an order, fulfilling a role. He was the key to a system that fed on death. And London was starving. They say the Victorians feared God but worshipped order. They built prisons like cathedrals and factories like tombs. London in 1887 was a clockwork machine of smoke, soot, and silence. But beneath that machinery, something else moved, something older than industry and crueler than law, a hunger that wore silk gloves and whispered through Parliament halls. The Laughing Man was not random. He followed a pattern, but not one written for the police to see. No, this was a pattern only understood by those who knew the rituals, the ancient ones, the ones whispered in the back rooms of elite lodges and private clubs, the ones that demanded blood to balance the books of power. Each victim was a symbol, not a person. The first was a mason's apprentice. The second was a banker's errand boy. The third, a physician's assistant whose father had once worked for the Royal Society. Each of them connected by invisible threads, not to crime, but to knowledge. Knowledge someone wanted erased. The grin was never just a mutilation. It was a glyph, a mark from the old texts, a sigil meaning silence. It meant the victim had spoken or was about to. It meant someone somewhere had violated the vow, and the vow was everything. The Laughing Man was the enforcer of that vow, and he moved not in shadows but in the blind spots of power. Every report that mentioned his name vanished. Every journalist who pursued his trail lost their careers, or their lives, or their minds. By the fourth victim, no one laughed at the idea of a pattern, but they still said nothing, because the silence was not just fear, it was loyalty to something darker than government, older than the crown, more absolute than law. And those who knew, they played along, because they understood the stakes. This was not about murder. This was about memory, control the story. And you control the mind, and you don't need chains by the time the fifth body was found in. There was a room beneath the city that no map dared mark. Not a basement, not a tunnel, not a station, older than the underground and deeper than the sewers. Some said it was Roman. Others said it was older than Rome itself. A chamber carved into the rock with walls etched in languages no scholar dared translate. It was there, they said, the Laughing Man was made, not born, made, a child taken from the Magdalene wards, raised not by family, but by silence, fed on ritual, trained not to feel pain, but to understand sacrifice. He was the blade of a forgotten order, the living hand of those who kept the empire's darkest secrets intact. Every empire has its enforcers, but this one didn't answer to the queen. He answered to the seal, a symbol older than any crest on the crown's banner, a snake eating its own tail, painted in ash and blood. They said you could summon him, but only if you knew the price, and those who didn't speak afterward, because once you see him, you understand. You don't run from the laughing man. You become part of his silence. The chamber where he was made had a door with no keyhole, only a whisper. It opened not to sound, but to memory. Only those who had taken the vow could enter, and even they came back changed. Their eyes dimmer, their tongues heavy. Records found decades later showed missing children listed under false names, always aged 7, always from institutions no longer standing. One of them, Michael Aldwych, was traced to both the asylum and the chamber, a name erased from census, erased from school rolls, but carved in charcoal on the inside of the chamber wall, over and over. Michael was the name he had before the grin, before they gave him the mask. Because the mask wasn't just to hide, it was to hold the ritual inside, to keep the seal intact, to contain what they had put in him. The laughing man was not a man. Not anymore. He was a story, and stories, they cannot be killed, only silenced. There are photographs that no archive claims to own, glass plates locked in private drawers of dead aristocrats, taken with cameras made for war, not memory, and in one of them, lit only by the gaslight of an abandoned corridor, you can see him, not fully, just the edge of a coat, a sliver of a grin, and the blurred distortion around his face, as if the lens itself refused to capture him fully. The image was found in the estate of Lord Everard Glass, a peer known for his obsession with esoteric artifacts. He died in 1890 with his eyes torn out and a mirror shattered in every room of his house. No one connected it at the time. They said madness. They said delirium tremens. They never said laughing man, but someone did. In a letter burned at the edges, found in a vault beneath St. Catherine's Seminary, a priest's confession. He wrote that the man in the mask came not for blood, but for memory. He said forgetting was mercy. He said remembering was a curse. The priest described a ritual that took place every solstice, held in the ruins of an old abbey sealed off from public record, a gathering of men with rings too heavy for their fingers, who spoke no words, only numbers. And in the center of the stone floor, the laughing man stood motionless until the bell rang 13 times. No one knew what happened during the ritual, because no one remembered afterward, not fully. They only knew that someone always vanished afterward, and that the city always seemed just a little more obedient, a little more silent. By 1887, the rituals had begun to fail, or perhaps the silence had begun to crack. More people were asking questions, more memories were surfacing, and the laughing man. He was summoned not to erase a name, but to erase a movement. The murders that followed weren't random. They were targeted deletions of minds, of voices, of those who could see the gears turning behind the illusion. Because the illusion, the myth of order and progress, it only works if no one sees the price. It was not just London that feared him. It was the entire engine of empire. The banks, the barristers, the bishops. They all knew the name even if they never dared speak it aloud. Because he was their fail-safe, their myth weaponized, a symbol stitched into the very fabric of institutional power. There were meetings in back rooms you will never read about, ledgers that listed donations in coin but tributes in flesh, and the laughing man was their collector, not of money, but of silence, permanent silence. In late September of 1887, a group of reformers began leaking documents to the press, whistleblowers before the word existed, educated, angry, willing to risk everything to expose what they called the Covenant of Shadows, a pact among elite families to maintain control over parliament policy and population. Within days, their names began to disappear, not just from headlines, but from paper entirely. Employment records, birth certificates, marriage ledgers, all gone. What remained were bodies, found in precise arrangements, hands folded, eyes wide, mouths cut into a final, unnatural grin. Always the same angle, always the same room temperature, as if time had stopped the moment they were touched. One investigator, Inspector Fawkes, refused to look away. He traced the deaths back to a single building in Holborn, abandoned on the surface, but beneath it, a staircase spiraled down with no known end. Fawkes descended for 7 hours. His final journal entry described hearing laughter echoing from the stone, not human, not joyful, but mechanical, like a phonograph slowly drowning in mud. They found his journal, but never his body. The silence afterward was total, not fear, obedience, because by then everyone understood. The laughing man was not after victims. He was after believers, those who questioned the lie, those who cracked the illusion, and once marked, you could not unsee, you could not unsay, you could only vanish. There is something buried beneath every empire. Not gold, not oil, not bones, but silence. A deliberate engineered silence. A forgetting so complete that even the question disappears. London in 1887 was not a city, it was a machine. Every cobblestone laid with intention. Every gas lamp casting shadows in just the right place, so that the truth could walk freely in darkness, unseen but not unfelt. And in the heart of this machine was the House of Keys, not Parliament, but something older, a lodge hidden beneath the Masonic halls of Great Queen Street, accessed only by invitation and marked by a sigil of the laughing mask carved upside down into stone, invisible unless lit from the left. Inside, they spoke not of governance but of containment, not of justice but of continuity. Their goal was simple: ensure the world never shifts too far toward awakening. Keep the people dreaming, keep them numb. And when cracks appear, call him. The laughing man was not summoned like a demon, he was activated. Through rites that involved sacrifice of memory, someone had to give up their past, completely, to feed the mechanism. That winter, as protests spread and speeches grew louder, the House of Keys grew desperate. The old methods no longer worked. Too many people were asking, too many minds refusing the anesthetic of empire. So they awakened him again. But this time something changed. He did not return to the shadows when the work was done. He lingered, watched, laughed, as if enjoying the unraveling, because he knew the seal was breaking, and the silence could not hold forever. What they created to protect their world had learned to hate it. He began choosing victims not from their list, but his own: bankers, judges, even one of the seal bearers himself, their mouths carved open in mockery, as if he were feeding their secrets back to them. The covenant was collapsing, and the laughing man, he was no longer an agent of order, he was its undoing. The Adelfi Theater, a relic of London's grand past, now a haunted shell hiding the darkest secrets of the laughing man. Its once majestic neoclassical facade stood weathered and cracked, a silent witness to the horrors played out behind its closed doors. Inside the theater's labyrinthine corridors, the air hung thick with the residue of past performances and past sins. The scent of rosin and decay mingled with chemical fumes from hidden laboratories. Beneath the stage, a network of chambers and secret rooms lay concealed, where Dr. Sebastian Hartwell conducted his grotesque experiments. Hartwell, a man of science and madness, driven by obsession to unlock the raw essence of human emotion. He believed that true feeling was suppressed by society's masks, and sought to tear away those facades with drugs that could induce pure terror or joy. His victims were chosen with chilling precision, from London's elite lecture halls to the forgotten alleys of the poor. Each death was both a scientific data point and a spectacle, their faces forever frozen in expressions of unfiltered emotion, the laughing man's signature carved into their chests, a mockery of the social masks they had worn in life. Inspector Harwick, haunted by the case, knew he walked into a trap when the invitation arrived, yet his duty compelled him forward, through the fog-shrouded streets to the theater's dark heart, where he faced not only Hartwell but the horrifying truth of human depravity masked as progress. The confrontation at the Adelfi Theater was a dance between madness and reason. Hartwell and his collaborator Geoffrey Candish stood poised like sinister actors awaiting their final scene. The calcium light cast long shadows across the stage, illuminating the grotesque tableau of scientific hubris. Hartwell explained with cold detachment how their experiments had evolved from theory to systematic murder, chemical compounds designed to evoke pure emotion, joy, terror, sorrow, emotions unfiltered by social conventions. Each victim's death was meticulously documented, their faces locked in expressions of raw feeling, But the true masterpiece was yet to come, the induction of absolute terror in someone trained to control fear, Inspector Harwick. The inspector feigned compliance while secretly preparing his escape. A small mirror hidden in his waistcoat became his weapon. He redirected the harsh light into Hartwell's and Candish's eyes, blinding them momentarily and turning the tide. In the ensuing struggle, the vial containing the terror-inducing compound shattered, filling the air with a poisonous fog. Hartwell and Candish inhaled their own creation, their downfall sealed by their own twisted genius. The case sent shockwaves through Victorian society, revealing the terrifying consequences when science divorces itself from morality, and reminded all that the most dangerous monsters wear masks of respectability. The aftermath of the Laughing Man case left London reeling. The courtroom at the Old Bailey became a stage for revelations darker than any theater play. Dr. Sebastian Hartwell and Geoffrey Candish stood exposed as architects of horror, their experiments detailed in chilling testimony and damning evidence. The sophisticated chemical formulas they developed were unlike anything known at the time, early psychoactive substances capable of manipulating the mind and body. Their laboratories, hidden beneath the city, were treasure troves of scientific monstrosity, bodies dissolved in acid baths, jars filled with chemical compounds, notes meticulously cataloging each victim and experiment. The trial shattered public faith in unregulated science, highlighting the dangers when intellect becomes untethered from conscience. Hartwell's descent into madness was painfully evident in court, his mind fractured by exposure to his own terror-inducing drugs. Candish showed no remorse, his privileged life reduced to prison labor, haunted by nightmares and uncontrollable laughter. Inspector Harwick's relentless pursuit became a blueprint for future investigations, teaching police forces to understand not just criminals, but the dark uses of scientific knowledge. The case left a scar on Victorian society, a grim reminder that evil often hides behind the guise of progress and respectability. The eerie shadow of the Laughing Man case stretched far beyond the courtroom walls. The Adelfi Theater, once a place of art and culture, became a symbol of hidden darkness. During renovations, secret chambers were uncovered beneath the stage, rooms filled with chemical equipment and detailed records of unspeakable experiments. Lists of influential Londoners marked for future torment sent chills through the city. The warehouse near the docks held even darker secrets. Acid baths with unidentified remains hinted at years of sinister research, victims without names or histories. Swallowed by Hartwell's merciless quest for knowledge, the full extent of their network remained elusive. Many conspirators vanished into the fog before justice could reach them. The government swiftly classified and sealed much of the evidence. Yet rumors persisted that the research influenced later military and intelligence operations, whispers of mind-altering substances used in covert wars and espionage. The legacy of the Laughing Man case was not just one of horror, but of caution, a stark warning of how scientific ambition, unchecked, can spiral into monstrous cruelty. Dr. Sebastian Hartwell's fate was sealed by the very terror he sought to control. Sentenced to death by hanging, his sentence was commuted to life imprisonment at Broadmoor Criminal Lunatic Asylum. There, trapped within the cold walls of his own mind's prison, he deteriorated rapidly. The constant psychological torment induced by the terror compound destroyed any hope of sanity. His testimony became incoherent, shattered by uncontrollable fits of fear. Ultimately, he died in custody less than 2 years later. The cause, a heart failure brought on by unrelenting terror, remains a haunting enigma. Geoffrey Candish's fall was no less tragic. Once a man of wealth and influence, now condemned to hard labor at Pentonville Prison, nightmares and panic attacks plagued his days and nights. Reports of uncontrollable laughter before his death echoed the symptoms his victims endured. His passing in 1890 was attributed to natural causes, but whispers of madness lingered. Both men became living testaments to the destructive power of their own creations, their names forever etched in history as symbols of science perverted by madness. The chemical formulas created by Dr. Hartwell were never fully recovered. Most laboratory notes had been deliberately destroyed during the investigation. Copies remained locked away in secret government archives for future study. Despite efforts by chemists and researchers, the full knowledge of those compounds was lost to time. The case of the Laughing Man murders became a grim reminder of unchecked scientific ambition. It fueled new regulations and ethical guidelines for medical research. The horrors exposed forced society to reconsider the true cost of progress. Inspector Harwick's detailed methods reshaped criminal investigations forever. His pursuit of truth despite darkness became a beacon for future detectives, facing crimes intertwined with science and intellect. The Laughing Man case echoed as a cautionary tale for generations to come. Inspector Harwick's career advanced rapidly after the case. Promoted to chief inspector, he became the foremost expert on crimes involving science and medicine. Police forces across the British Empire sought his guidance when faced with similar complex investigations. His notes and techniques became essential reading in detective training academies. Harwick never forgot the lesson that monsters wear the mask of respectability and intellect. His work revealed that education and social standing offered no shield from darkness. He dedicated himself to exposing the hidden evils lurking behind learned facades. Many of his later cases involved professionals abusing specialized knowledge to commit unthinkable crimes. His legacy shaped a new era of criminal investigation, blending psychology with forensics. Harwick's vigilance ensured that the Laughing Man's shadow did not fade quietly into history. The Adelfi Theater, the site of the final confrontation, underwent extensive renovations after the case. Workers uncovered hidden chambers beneath the stage filled with chemical equipment and disturbing experimental notes. Among the findings was a detailed list of over 50 prominent Londoners marked as future victims. This list included members of Parliament, judges, professors, businessmen, and cultural icons. Their deaths would have rocked British society to its core. The discovery revealed that the conspiracy extended far beyond what anyone had imagined. A systematic campaign aimed at terrorizing London's elite was narrowly stopped by Inspector Harwick's intervention. The theater's eerie past became a chilling reminder of the darkness lurking beneath the city's civilized surface. Despite exhaustive investigations, many accomplices vanished before arrest, suggesting a network that reached beyond England. The true scale of Dr. Hartwell's operation remains shrouded in mystery to this day. Dr. Sebastian Hartwell was sentenced to death by hanging, though his sentence was later commuted to life imprisonment at Broadmoor Criminal Lunatic Asylum due to his deteriorated mental state caused by exposure to his own terror-inducing compound. He died in custody less than 2 years later, under mysterious circumstances, with medical records pointing to cardiovascular failure brought on by relentless terror. Jeffrey Candish received a life sentence of hard labor at Pentonville Prison, where he was relegated to manual work that contrasted sharply with his former life of privilege. Prison records describe recurring nightmares and panic attacks, afflicting him frequently requiring medical aid. He died in 1890, apparently from natural causes, but fellow inmates reported hearing uncontrollable laughter from his cell hours before his death, echoing the symptoms of his victims. Despite efforts by government chemists and researchers, the chemical formulas Dr. Hartwell developed were never fully replicated. Many of his laboratory notes were destroyed deliberately to prevent misuse, though some copies were retained secretly for potential future research. This tragic case became a stark warning about unregulated scientific experimentation and the potential for intellect to be twisted into monstrous ends. The case of the Laughing Man murders sent shockwaves through Victorian society, exposing how scientific progress could be perverted into a tool of terror. It sparked urgent calls for stricter regulations and ethical guidelines for medical and psychological research. Inspector Harwick's investigation became a model for future detectives who faced criminals using knowledge and social standing to commit complex crimes. His meticulous methods emphasizing psychological insight and scientific understanding transformed criminal investigations across the British Empire. Harwick's case notes became essential reading in police academies, shaping generations of law enforcement professionals. The societal impact extended beyond policing, stirring debates among intellectuals about the moral limits of science and the dangers of unchecked curiosity. It forced London's elite to confront uncomfortable truths about how education and status did not guarantee morality or humanity. Public opinion grew wary of blind faith in science, fueling movements toward oversight and ethical accountability in research. The Laughing Man case remains a chilling reminder that the pursuit of knowledge without conscience can unleash horrors far greater than common crime. Dr. Sebastian Hartwell's final downfall was as tragic as it was ironic. Exposed to his own terror-inducing compound in the chaos of the Adelfi Theater fight, he was left trapped in an endless state of overwhelming fear. His mind shattered by the very science he had twisted into a weapon. His once brilliant intellect reduced to incoherent terror. Hartwell's decline in Broadmoor Asylum was marked by uncontrollable panic and despair until his death less than 2 years later. Geoffrey Candish, meanwhile, endured a grim fate behind bars, his privileged life replaced by hard labor and haunting nightmares. His occasional bouts of uncontrollable laughter in prison whispered of a mind unhinged by the poison they once used to dominate others. The case closed, but its ripples endured. Government agencies zealously guarded Hartwell's formulas, fearing their misuse. But some suspect the research influenced secret military programs. The full extent of the conspiracy and its hidden collaborators remains shrouded in mystery as key figures vanished before facing justice. The Laughing Man murders left a dark legacy warning of the perils when intellectual ambition forsakes empathy and humanity. It reminds us that even the brightest minds can become monsters when blinded by obsession and unrestrained scientific hubris. The legacy of the Laughing Man murders reshaped how society viewed science and morality in Victorian London. It forced lawmakers to implement strict ethical guidelines governing human experimentation, forever changing medical research, forever. Inspector Harwick's relentless pursuit of justice set a new standard for police work, blending psychological insight with traditional detective skills. His experience revealed that evil often wears the mask of respectability and intelligence, hiding in plain sight among society's elite. The Adelfi Theater became a haunting symbol of the thin line between scientific curiosity and madness, where human lives were sacrificed for twisted knowledge. This dark chapter echoes through history, reminding us that progress unmoored from conscience breeds horror beyond imagination. In every era, we must ask ourselves, how far are we willing to go? In the name of discovery, and at what cost to our humanity? Do you believe all victims were accounted for? Or does the shadow of Dr. Hartwell's experiments linger still in forgotten corners? The story invites us to reflect on the dangers of blind faith in intellect, and to remain vigilant against the monsters who disguise themselves as pioneers. If you found this journey into Victorian darkness compelling, subscribe for more tales from history's shadowed edges, and share your thoughts below. The fog-shrouded streets of London may have cleared, but many secrets still lie buried beneath, waiting to be revealed.